Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Warrior to Love. I'm Philip. This is my co host, wife, Christy.
Good morning.
Today, we're taking on one of the biggest challenges in a relationship. We have,
Communication.
yeah, we have communication. And it's what someone says and what I hear, and vice versa, uh, of what's actually heard versus what I think they said.
We all kind of know how that goes. A lot of times you say one thing, your partner hears something different, and then you have no idea how you end up in the argument that you're in. You've said something that has been taken the wrong way. You have no idea how you've gotten there. And you're just kind of in this circle of how did I get here? What's happened? This isn't what I meant to say, and this is not what I said. And how are you getting that from what I said, right? So we kind of want to share some of our past and how we've gotten here and how we learned to communicate in that aspect, and kind of see if that can help anyone else out there. So.
Yeah, because basically, as a warrior, my mindset is straight, clear, to the point. I don't put feelings in it. You can't. But in the civilian world and in relationships, it doesn't work that way.
All the feelings are in it. All the feelings are in it.
But
your past, your
it's
feelings,
illogical.
Everything.
It's illogical.
It's logical. It's totally logical.
It's illogical.
Like, what are you talking about?
And a lot of it's just translating what one is saying and what I'm hearing and how I process it through my thoughts, my beliefs, my actions, and how it all plays part into that of making better decisions when it comes to communication with your loved ones and your family members. Because what I found out is we come from different areas. I had a buddy of mine just recently. He has a very dark sense of humor. And one of the things that in the military, we got it. We didn't take it personal or anything. It's about camaraderie and, just razzing each other, but you don't take it personal. Well,
I will say that. I feel like people in the military, or my experience with people in the military, are really good at blowing things off. Like when something offends them, they do blow it off very easily. And I will say that people, I feel like in the civilian world, or women or spouses, things like that, we kind of hold on to things a little bit more. We kind of take it a little bit more personally, and we kind of have to understand that a little bit more. That's something that I have had to learn. I have had to let go of. I've had to learn to do that. So absolutely, like that's been a trial, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So today we're breaking down how to bridge that gap in communication and realize that my intent doesn't necessarily go over well in the civilian world if I don't articulate it in a more conscious, loving, and understanding manner versus this is what it is and period. Mm-hmm. I think that goes a long way in clarifying and understanding that we're both on the same team. A lot of the times we start saying the same thing, but from different angles or different perspectives, because she doesn't have the background and knowledge that I do of what I'm doing and how I lack thereof feeling, because I couldn't.
So someone commented here that, his friend is a jester, and, not everything needs black humor. Just as an example, one of the things that he did to his wife, like, this is for me, just as an example. He called his wife one time and told his wife that he had been in a horrible car accident. For me, that would be completely tragic. Like, that was an April Fool's joke for him. That to me is horrifying. Like, I can't, that's not funny. That's not, and he's done things like that too. That's their sense of humor, right? Like not my sense of
Very
humor.
dark.
No, that is terrifying when you think, oh my gosh, my person is hurt and what do I need to do? That's not a joke, but it's just a different sense of humor, and you have to communicate that. No, this is not the way to joke with me. You have to joke a different way. So yes, there is a gesture in there, and you have to find that person who jokes and things like that. But there are some jokes that are not okay, and you have to communicate that. So absolutely.
Well, a lot of the times you used to get on to me about not being female friendly.
Oh, yes.
Because for guys, we like disgusting things, and we have no problem bringing that out, but you got to know your audience.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we can't talk to our wives the way we do our buddies.
Yeah.
Because I think it has to do with a lot more of respect and understanding that, hey, I need to be able to distinguish the difference between it.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're getting into why do we hear things differently?
Mm-hmm.
Because even you got to understand who you're talking with and why. Because if you really look at it, if I don't understand, she's from the South. I grew up in Ohio and spent time on the West Coast and then all over the world. But coming back here, she doesn't have the worldly experience.
Well, yeah, I'm born and raised in Florida. Like, I'm born and raised in the South.
The deep South.
So, it's a little bit different. We are two different species, right? So, and I also love the differences in men and women. Women are also more emotional, but we also have a very logical side. And it's a balance there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Men are creatures of few words, whereas women tend to express themselves in a lot of words. And sometimes that has a disconnect, right? So that makes a little bit of a challenge, because for a man of few words, he shuts down when you're saying so many things, right? He's done after like 2 or 3 words. He's like, I've tuned you
said
out,
my piece.
Right?
Well,
so
yeah, and let's start with the basics. Why do we hear things differently? It's more than just words. It's about your tone,
mm-hmm.
your inflection, your content, and your personal experiences that you have that play all in part of that, and realizing that what I say and what I do,
mm-hmm.
It's not just, because I can sit here and tell you, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can say, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's 2 different contexts, and I'm scaring the heck out of her when I say it the other way, because there's more to it than just those words.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where a lot of it comes down to your tone and your delivery.
Mm-hmm. Can you turn that sound off, David?
Oh.
Okay, thanks.
My phone dinged.
Sorry.
But and Ethel, hey, I greatly appreciate you come on here. I'm going to show one of your. We're all born with 4 hardwired feelings, both men and women: sad, glad, mad, and scared. I would say there's a couple more in there. Happy, love, because I think love is one of the things that we don't use enough in our society for understanding.
I think our past holds a lot in that too. A lot of our emotional state, like when we're communicating, a lot of our past has a lot to do with our communication, right? So when we are communicating, we are taking into it, we're using our past experiences with our communication. Mm-hmm. So that plays a big role, and so what we feel and our past experiences are coming into our communication. And sometimes you have to really learn that about a person when you're talking to them, and you have to know and understand that about a person. So, for example, the relationship that I had prior to ours, I was with someone who, every time I spoke or said something, I was really kind of beat down. I was told that I was wrong, that everything I said was misconstrued. So I was afraid to say things. What that taught me was to be silent and listen and not say anything. And so for him, when we first got together, when he started talking to me, I said nothing. There was absolute silence on my end. Because I was afraid to say anything, because I was afraid if I said something, it might set him off. My response was, what is the fastest way to get my argument over, right? If I just agreed, then it would end, right?
Yeah, but you've never done that with me. You're being quiet.
I did.
Well,
I did.
You
and then
learned
what would
really
happen,
quick to express yourself.
Well, what would happen, and it still does sometimes, is that, if he's communicating and he's saying his piece, I am very, very quiet. And then all of a sudden my head will slowly turn. And then I just spit facts, and it just comes out like a monster. And
oh no, you better take that back.
and he just gets quiet, and he's like, oh, okay, well, I see how you feel. And so sometimes that happens that way. And, it's still part of communication, but we have to then go back and go, hold on, that's not what I meant. Let's go back and say what you heard.
Yes. And it goes along with your emotional state, because there's a lot of times my script has flipped on me, because I was always gone. Now I'm always home. And that emotional state for me is hard, because I went from high speed, low drag, get things done, everything, to nothing. And that's hard on your ego, your pride, and everything. You got to throw that out the window, because what that does, it creates more stress and anxiety in you or in me. And it's a distraction away from what we're really talking about.
Yeah. So, like, for example, communication, like with him being short with communication, I might ask him a question or say something to him, send him a text. It might be a long text with a lot of questions in it, a lot of things, and he might respond back to me with a K.
Okay.
Just a K. At first it was a K or a thumbs up. And I'm like, what does that mean? Where are we? I asked you 4 things. You only said K. I need something. And that would just cause some like rage. Like, I don't understand. Where are you coming from? What does that mean? And so, there was a lot of finding that balance. And I wanted just to express that, getting here wasn't easy. Like, it's not easy.
No,
and
not easy by any means.
I mean, honestly, there was a time that I walked down.
I-5 in LA.
I literally got out of the car and walked down I-5 in LA, and I was going to go down the on-ramp the opposite way so he couldn't get me. Like, that was I was out. I was peacing out, and they parted like the Red Sea to let him through.
It's LA.
Listen, it was not the first time that happened. They were like, let me let you through. Like, let you get your girl. Like, so, but that communication, that day, it was a rough day, but at the end of the day, we were so much closer. And
I just couldn't believe she got out of the car, and she's like, well, if you're not going to listen to me, I'm gone.
I know, man.
And it was amazing, because 6 lanes of traffic, and everybody, if you've been to LA, it's bumper to bumper traffic everywhere, 6 lanes or not. And everybody's trying to get to where they're going. So for her to step out, and she did it again in El Paso, Texas, because she was getting on my driving. She's like, well, just pull over. And I was like, all right.
So driving is a big trigger for him, you know, and I think that a lot of people don't understand. And I want to put this out there because I feel like it's not just military people who might be watching this. So I want to make sure that I put this out there. You know, driving is a trigger for a lot of people, especially who have been in war zones and things like that. People who have been in that situation do not like to be boxed in. I think civilians, one of their things, you know, when they're driving in traffic, when people who are frustrating them, they slow down and they say, you know, if this guy's going to ride my butt, I'm going to match this other person's speed and block them in. And I'm going to show them. Right. So for a warrior, that's a trigger because, you know, that was how they would block them in, try to blow them up, things like that. So that can be very triggering for someone who's been in that situation. He absolutely cannot stand to be trapped behind somebody.
Especially when there's nobody in front of them, and now they're impeding my ability to get to point A to point B.
So in this
with my
situation,
ADHD brain with PTSD and everything, all I want to do is go through them.
So in this situation, that was something that had happened, and he was retaliating. And I don't agree with retaliating. I feel like that is something, and I was trying to explain to him that it was not something personal to him. It was something that, you know, they don't understand that. They don't understand that he was a warrior, is a warrior, that he is being triggered by that they didn't wake up that morning and think, I'm going to find that black Mercedes and I am going to block them in and I am going to
cut them off.
I think that's my plan. And I had to make that joke with him, and I had to find that joke. And it took a couple of jokes like that to kind of resonate with him and say, hey, you know
it's
what?
Not personal.
This person woke up this morning and their plan was, let me go find that black Mercedes and let me block them in so that they can't get past me. And the first time I did it, he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, that's what he did. That was his whole goal this morning, was to block you in and keep you from getting around him. And he was like, what in the world? And as soon as he figured out what I was doing, he was like, oh, I get it. Like, okay, they're not out to get me. This is just something that they're doing. It is a natural inclination for people when you're on their tail end, or when you're trying to pass them, for them to kind of slow down. It's a natural inclination for people to do that. So
that makes me want to go right up in.
Right. So what they should do is pull to the side a little bit so that people can get around them, like, you know, move over in their lane so that people can easily get around them. Not speed up, but yes, kind of slow down a little bit and move over to the side. So it's communication, and it's making sure that, so not only my communication for me, but I'm communicating to him, part of the civilian world. I'm kind of like his bridge for that, right? Because he hasn't been in that world. So I have to also do that for him, right?
And that's where it comes down to our next segment of he said, she heard. Mm-hmm. Those moments of saying, when she would say, I'm fine. Mm-hmm. Well, what she really says, I need reassurance, but don't want to ask for it. So basically, she pay attention to me, but I'm not going to tell you to pay attention to me. Or if
I say all the things that I want to say, you're not going to hear what I'm saying.
No.
Right. Well, I feel like you're not going to hear me. And at that time, I really did feel like if I say it, you're not going to hear me. Now I don't feel that way. Now I feel like I can say it. He's going to repeat it back to me, and then we're going to be able to get somewhere. So very rarely do I ever say I'm fine. That's not. I
know you say I don't listen to you. Yeah. You don't listen to me.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you, that you're not heard or valued when I don't respond? When, like, we're sitting on the couch, you're talking, I'm zoning out on TV or reading or doing whatever. And
so one time I called Philip. I was on my way home, and I was calling just to chat with him. I was telling him about my day. I told him what had happened in my day, and he said, so how did your day go? And I just told him like 10 minutes of my day. So I told him again, and he didn't say anything. And I said, did you hear what I said? And he was like, oh, yeah. But what happened in your day? Sir, now I've told you twice.
Well, no, because I could tune everything
So
out
I
and
told him
focus.
again, and he didn't hear me again. And so then the third time I told him, he had gotten up and gone to the bathroom in the middle of my story. Like I wasn't even talking to him. And that was so frustrating for me. Like, why did you ask me about my day? Why are you listening to me? And you are literally tuning me out and getting up and walking away. Why am I talking to you if you're not even listening to me? You're not hearing me. Why am I wasting my breath? I literally got off the phone and I called my cousin and I just sobbed and cried because why? He's my person. Why is he not listening to what I'm saying? What is happening? So when I got home, actually, I didn't even tell him that day. I think it took about 6 months for me to tell him, this is what happened that day. I told you about my day 4 times. You never heard me. You got up and left our conversation and went to the bathroom and came back while I was still talking. And his response was, I had no idea that it affected you that way. I was just spending time with you and letting you talk. I thought you just needed to vent. Well, no, I wanted you to respond to me. I wanted you to hear me, and I wanted you to acknowledge me, and I wanted you to, hear what I was saying, and I wanted to feel valued at that time. I wanted your opinion. And so at that point, it was a big eye opener for him, and so.
Well, it's stopping and paying attention and looking at it from her perspective. But I mean, we all deal with things in our own ways. But one of the things that we had problems with before is do whatever you want.
Oh yeah. When I say do whatever you want, I'm there. I'm like, okay, you know what? Do whatever you want. Hey, that happened before this call. Like, he was like, hey, let's play some music on the way in. Like, let's put these songs. And I was like, I think we should say that for our podcast. Let's do that for our podcast. And he's playing music, and I'm like, or you could just disregard everything I say and do whatever you want. And he was like, okay. Like, I understand what you're saying. Like, we'll talk about it. And maybe we'll do it for the next one. We'll make that discussion and we'll have that. Yeah, because we need to sit down and discuss it, decide what kind of music. It's not going to be a fly by night kind of thing. We're not going to just jump into it. Like, let's discuss it and make a plan. Like,
Well, and that's what I have to look at this. This is something we're doing together.
Right.
And it's not just me, it's us.
Right.
And I think that was because I used to take everything for face value because I didn't look into it. But that's why I needed a female interpreter, because I've had previous relationships in the past that I had to talk to my daughters for clarification. They're like, Dad, why don't you know this? Well, how am I supposed to? I'm always gone. I never interacted with the civilian side as much. Yeah. So let's get into better communication.
Yeah. So, communication doesn't come easy. I think everybody's communication is a little bit different. I think that it's really hard for people to communicate when one of the spouses is gone a lot of the time. You have one spouse at home who is doing a lot of the things, the home life, right? And the spouse that's gone doesn't understand exactly what's happening at home, right? They don't understand all the things that are being done at home. They are not.
I don't have time to worry about what's going on at home because I had a mission that I need to take care of. Well, when I got back from Iraq, it was me, and now all these other responsibilities so that I didn't have to worry about or force into the forefront.
Right. And so I think that, and that also, would probably really be a good thing that we're going to talk about, of course, is being seen. We want one of our conversations about being seen, and that's a very big topic that we want to really discuss. But just to kind of glance into that, the communication part of that here is when the spouse comes home, the military person comes home, and the spouse is, obviously very happy that they're home, but they want to communicate. They need a little bit of help, right? The spouse comes home and they just want to decompress.
Well, a lot of it has to do with active listening. Mm-hmm. I think active listening, and that's when it goes back to he said, she heard, or she said, he heard, is repeating back what was said or what you thought you heard. Because there's times to where I'm looking at, we don't communicate effectively because we're not actively listening and giving our focus to you. Mm-hmm. We're trying to do, my brain is trying to fix five to 10 different problems all at once.
Right.
And and it frustrates me to be able to step back and now have to explain what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And that's a frustration for me because I know what needs to be done. And for me to be able to articulate that to you, I had to come to the understanding you don't know what's in my brain.
Right. And you don't know what's in mine, because nobody can do that. And I think that is a really hard thing for spouses and for mm-hmm. warriors, is that we make the assumption that this, each other knows what the other one's thinking, what the other one's plan is, what we're objective and our goal is. And no, nobody knows unless you say it.
And that's where when you ask for a clarification.
Right.
He was like, oh, wait, this is what I just heard. And you're like, and when I found out as I'm doing that, she goes, no, that's not what I said. Let me get it out. Mm-hmm. And because you'll find out, once you get it out, and because I have to stop myself too, because the benefit to it is it's a lot less stressful and we get to the point a lot mm-hmm. faster if I can stop, ask for clarification, mm-hmm. and express my perspective on it. And because my own thoughts, my beliefs, my actions all play a part into that and how I respond to you.
Right.
And it's mutual respect.
Right. And then there's also that 2-second pause, right? So when you ask for that clarification, the person clarifies what they've said, pause, process what they've said to you before you respond, because you cannot take back your response, right?
No.
And
usually it's aggressive.
And you don't want it to be aggressive, because it's about your communication, right? It's about your relationship. You want your relationship to be good. You want your relationship to be strong.
Yeah. Another one is a 2-second pause rule.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. So if you're adding that, and sometimes mine are longer than 2 seconds because I'm really thinking about it and I really want what I say.
Overthinking.
Yeah. But I do overthink, but I really, really want what I say to be the correct thing. And I want it to come out right. I want it to be, I really want to be a good communicator, and I want I don't want to say something I can't take back. And I don't want it to be interpreted incorrectly.
And that's where the validation comes in, overcorrection, mm-hmm. because you want to be heard. You're like, I don't want you to fix my problem. I need to express it. And then we can figure out from that point, after you get the validation and you get everything out, we can sit back and go, okay, where do we go from here?
Right. But also, it's not even just that. It's also the fact that even if we're coming from two different places, mm-hmm. your feelings are valid.
Yes.
Right. And so even if I don't understand it, even if it's not something that I'm agreeing with, the way that he feels is valid, right? Because that's his past experiences. It's the way that he has gotten to that point. It's all of those things, and his feelings are valid. And so I have to make sure that I am honoring that, honoring those things, and he wants to honor mine too, so it's been a way to get there. making sure that our tone is correct, making sure our intention is there, making sure that we're understanding the other person's perspective.
And love.
Yeah.
Love is a wonderful thing. I wish I had it when I was a kid, because it's opened up my eyes. And part of communication is about more than words. It's about intention, your tone, and understanding each other's perspective. Because I think that plays a big part into why we're here today. In all these future shows that we look to have, it's about coming together and realizing that we all here think and believe differently. Now we have to come together and find happiness with each other. And it comes down to mutual respect and love and understanding. And it's something that I practice every day. I'm not perfect. I fail. I trip. I fall. But you know what? I get right back up going and dust myself off and keep going, because you know what? I found happiness. I found love, and I never thought I would, in Jacksonville, Florida.
And it wasn't an easy road. I mean, we found it very quickly, but we struggled along the way. And that is why we definitely want to make sure that we do that. We filter everything that we hear through our own experiences. And I think that's what makes us better at our communication, better at who we are. And patience is a huge part of communication. And I know just from experience, talking with other wives, talking with other spouses, things of that nature. I'm not the only one that's in this boat. I'm not the only one who has struggled with the exact same things. So that's why we decided to do this. And that's why we want to make sure we talk about communication first, and it will be part of every single one of our conversations, because communication is so important. And it is part of everything. It's a part of everything that we do. And it's part of every one of our stories, because that's part of every single disagreement. It's part of every single moment that we have, because you have to have that. It makes a partnership. It makes all of those things. So we hope that all of you will reflect on times when your communication hasn't gone as planned, and that maybe you can take some of these tools and use them for your difficult conversations. And maybe you can share your experiences on social media with us and in your comments and things like that. And maybe we can look into discussing those in kind of future lives and podcasts and things of that nature. So,
yeah, I make sure that you guys subscribe to Warrior to Love for more episodes. I love these conversations. It's about getting out and realizing that we have the ability to direct our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions to a better way of life, and understanding that the person that I found my person. I there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We've been together 9 years now. We've been married over 8, and I couldn't imagine my life without her, because she helps me understand who I am and makes me think before or as you were saying before, that 2-second pause. I've had to learn that a lot. But what I'm thankful for is everybody here, and that we can share our thoughts, our feelings, and about communication with one another, because it's what matters. And once you understand that, you throw your ego, your pride out the window, take those filters off, and see the world for what it truly is. It's beautiful. Jesus spread love. God bless you.
We want to thank you all for joining us today, because we've had some of you that have been very active, and we really, really appreciate you. We've tried to comment on those, and we really appreciate you. Definitely sending love back to you. So thank you very much for that. Those of you joining us later and watching, we definitely appreciate that as well. Our next podcast, I think I would really, really like to do it about being seen, because I think that's very, very important, and something that is going to be a hot topic. So being seen in a relationship, I think, can be for everybody, and something that Philip is very, very good about doing. And so I want to make sure that
touch is my love language.
Love languages are very important. And
Yes.
so it's something that we can certainly talk about. And I really want to talk about being seen. I actually stumbled across a TikTok about someone who commented on that. And it's really interesting. And I think that being seen in a relationship is so very important. Communication falls in line with that. And so I definitely want to do our next podcast about being seen. So in 2 weeks at 8:00, please join us again, and we will talk about being seen in a relationship.
Outstanding. Thank you. You guys have a wonderful day. Hey, love will set you free.